Welcome to obviously everybody to this meeting, cabinet members and our officers. Very important that we carry on meetings during this period, and we've obviously switched to virtual meetings for the purpose of this cabinet meeting. I think what is also important is that we welcome councillors and members of the public that will also be watching this as well. Welcome to them. For cabinet members, just to make you aware that, as I just said before the meeting started, that when you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and I will then call you to speak. If you could unmute your microphone and then mute it again after you have spoken. We'll go on to the agenda then, before us today. Apologies as the first item. I have apologies from Councillor Helena Maxfield, who's unable to come today, but all the cabinet members are here. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have any items anybody would like to raise a declaration of interest on? No? Okay. Item 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting. Can we agree those as a correct record? Paul? Please unmute yourself, Paul.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just speak, yeah.
Yeah, you were distorting, Simon, for some reason. I don't know if that's a technical fault, but you were distorting every word you said. I don't know if it's a volume issue, but it's cleared now. I'm talking, so maybe that's the problem. Yes, I wish to pardon?
Minutes of the last meeting.
Yeah, approve them, Chair.
Okay, Jill?
Agreed.
Okay, does everybody else hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, we'll press ahead. Probably just a bit of a glitch on Paul's system there. If you could mute your microphone, Paul, once you've spoken, that'd be great. So, moving to our first item before us today, it is a coronavirus pandemic update on page 13 to 18 of the agenda. For those people that are tuning in that are not part of the meeting, if you'd like to view the agenda, just go to Newcastle's internet site, www.newcastle-staffs.gov.uk, where you can find the agenda under the committee agenda item. So we've got a report from our officers today to update the Cabinet on the Council's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. When we last met as a Cabinet on the 18th of March, we were just before the lockdown was announced. The Council was preparing to continue operating and providing services as much as possible while abiding with the government's social distancing and the subsequent stay-at-home directive. Our office-based staff have been enabled to work from home, meaning that planning, economic development and customer services and IT have been able to carry on providing services with minimal disruption. A number of services have been severely affected. The museum, the J2 have closed, and staff have been diverted to help with the CV support effort across the borough. And Castle House and the Customer Service Centre in Kidsgrove have closed to the public. Other services have remained remarkably resilient during this period. The waste and recycling system is operating almost with a normal service, and that is a credit to the teams involved. We did not, like other councils, stop collecting our garden waste. Nationally, there's seen a massive increase in the amount of garden waste being generated due to the stay-at-home rule, and we are meeting the demand across the borough. Other councils have now started to reintroduce their garden waste collections to meet that demand. Street Scene has been concentrating on its priority areas, freeing up some staff to support the effort in waste to keep those services going. I would like to thank all of the council staff at every level for the effort that they've put in during this period. I think it's been a brilliant effort so far to get us through to where we are at the moment, and long may that continue into the future during this, while we're under these restrictions. Looking at other services which we have been delivering during this, supporting the most vulnerable. We've obviously working with the County Council, with support staffs and with the Realise Foundation to coordinate the support for vulnerable people in the borough. And as I said, we've got staff from J2 and other parts of the council that have been drafted in to man phone lines and to also deliver food parcels, and you know, working 7 days a week almost on that task. So we've been, pulling our weight as the borough, coordinating it all locally and working importantly with the county and also with support staff to bring that forward. Homeless and rough sleepers, we've taken the homeless and rough sleepers off the street and put them into accommodation as requested by the government. And we will react to any new people that become homeless and make sure that they're not on the streets during this time. We've been coordinating the government's hardship fund for council tax to ensure that people have the requirements that they have in that area. We've been supporting businesses by passporting the government funding through for the business rates release, small business grant funding as well. So we've done our bit there to passport many millions of pounds through the system out to businesses within the borough. And I think speaking to the director of, from the county recently, we are one of the districts that's been leading on that and getting that money out to people as required. Financial impact, there is a financial impact to this, obviously, with the services that we are no longer getting any money for because of the pandemic. I mean, you can highlight, obviously, J2, highlight the parking income. That leaves us with a significant drop in income, which the report does outline there quite starkly. And Stephen Sweeney, as Deputy Leader and Finance Portfolio, will talk more about that in a minute. I think just to wrap it all together, this report, I think the council's done an amazing job of getting our staff working from home and also being able to provide those key services. Our staff that are out there on the streets have done an amazing job working with social distancing and also working within the rules of which they can do. And we provided, obviously, the support to the vulnerable and to businesses, and we'll continue to do so. But we are under financial pressure because of that, with the lack of income, which will have a marked effect if the government do not refund some of that, and also make sure that all district councils are sustainable going forward through this crisis. I'm going to open it up now to Cabinet members to give a comment. I'll call Stephen first as Deputy Leader and Finance Portfolio Holder. Over to you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Leader. Yeah, well, just a couple of sort of things I think the council deserves a great credit for. There's a hardship fund we're talking about. That's £1,035,000 of taxpayers' money that's coming to the authority to be passed over to residents who are support for the council tax. It's the government expectation is the council tax bills reduced by £150, and that's what that money is going for. Any money left over, we're looking at setting up a hardship fund that we can focus. What we're thinking might be something like £50,000 to various extra groups as well to give them more support on the council tax. The support for businesses we're talking about. We've been given £23 million by the government to pass over to businesses at either £10,000 or £25,000, depending on what the rateable value was. And I think our officers do great credit for this, because to date we've paid out £10 million to over 55% of applicants. Now there's 2,040 businesses, of which 1,500 have put applications in at the moment. And I think we've done a really impressive job to help our small businesses. And I think the officers have credit for that. A number have come in to us that basically haven't been filled in right. Now this is in effect is free money for our businesses. So really they need to get them filled in properly, get them sent back, and we can passport the money over. But these to me are the two big highlights of the finance team for the work they've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill.
Hi. Yes, I think I agree with Simon. Some of the comments you made earlier. Badly affected. Obviously, we've got the J2 and the museum, which is closed. But I just want to make a general comment that I just think that this council is doing a fantastic job looking after us during this very difficult time. I'd like to thank all of the staff for their unstinting support and hope this will continue. Most people won't appreciate how important this has been, and a lot of people don't even take all this for granted. And I think the loyalty and dedication of the staff we must commend them, because if it hadn't been for those, we could have soldiers emptying the rubbish bins and have rubbish rotting in the streets. So I just really, thank all of the staff for everything that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Paul.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I just wish to echo what other councillors have said, and yourself, is to thank everybody that's connected with the council for keeping the services going. during this difficult time. I'm really pleased that we've been able to maintain services. And particularly, I'll single out two particular issues that I'm pleased with, and that's the support for the most vulnerable and the support for businesses. Businesses, as we know, are a fundamental income stream for the council. To help them while they're going through this difficult patch is paramount, and it's very important. And I'm so glad to hear that the council have managed to devolve the money into the appropriate sources. I'm a little bit surprised that some businesses haven't taken this up, but I'm sure that that will come forward in due course. Obviously, at a time like this, the most vulnerable residents in the community are at most at risk, and are at risk of falling through the net in terms of a wraparound service. So I'm pleased that the council has been able to respond to those requests appropriately, and make it continue to do so, and work closely with the county council and also the voluntary and charity services. I also want to mention, which isn't mentioned on here, that a very important part of the council is the planning team. They've been beavering away while all this has been going on, and been able to pretty much run a planning service as it's done normally, with the exception of going to planning committee meetings where it has to be on a particularly scaled down version in terms of using a facility like this on Zoom to help do the process that the planning team has to conduct. So I just wanted to mention that, because they've been putting an extra effort into making sure that things are still going in the background there. So other than that, it's a great team effort. I'm really pleased to see that all cabinet members are able to keep their portfolios running. And over to you, Leader. Thank you. Oh, I'd just like to add that if I turn my microphone off, you distort. So I'll be quiet in the background and won't say anything. Thank you.
Okay, can anybody hear me actually? Because I've got a sign saying that my audio isn't working, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay, over to you, Trevor.
Okay, thank you, Leader. On waste and recycling, I think we've been nothing short of heroic that we're out there and collect. The tonnage is up by 20% on what we normally collect. We're also, in some cases, in a lot of the rounds, it is just a driver plus one. And I've been out talking to them in the street, and I think their dedication is fantastic. And Street Scene have been giving great support there. And through the way we're getting on top of everything, we're going to start cutting the grass again, which is earlier than we anticipated. So, and on bereavement services, as you know, we've had a replanning there, and I think we can now manage about 65 cremations per week. And that'll include opening on a Saturday morning, which is something I've long advocated that we should be looking at. So, all in all, I'm delighted with the efforts that they're making. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Trevor. Moving on to obviously the financial impact of this, I'm going to bring Stephen in again in a minute, but we did receive £65,000 at the beginning of this crisis from the government as part of a funding grant which went to all local government. Districts obviously didn't get very much, boroughs like ourselves. That was immediately spent on the homelessness issue of getting people off the street immediately, which we spent that money on, and we are awaiting from the government to see, following the announcement by Robert Jenrick at the weekend, how much money obviously the districts will be given again. We are lobbying our local MP, both of them, Aaron and Jonathan, who are taking this up with the government, and we're also working with the wider district sector of local government to ensure we get the appropriate funding. Because as the report makes out, there is quite a stark choice if we don't get this funding within the next month or so. So we will be continuing to press the government to give us that funding. But Stephen, have you anything to add on that, Steve?
I'll just reiterate what's on the report, really. The government gave us £65,000 out of the 1.2 billion. £65,000 got spent on getting the homeless off the streets. That's gone now, but 65,000 is just it's such a small amount. It's a bit silly. We bring something like £850,000 a month, and we're looking to probably end up with, say, about £600,000 loss a month, and we got £1.5 million in our reserves, and you'd have to do the maths very long to see how long we go until we get in real problems. So we're all waiting with bated breath, really, what Robert Jenrick's answer to this for district council is, because everybody's going to be in the same boat. It won't just be us. What he intends to do about this, and until we find out, we can't really do anything. But that's the position we're in at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Moving to the report front, it says recommend that we endorse this report that's come forward. I think I'll echo once again the comments of everybody, the thanks to our staff to keeping those, particularly those frontline services going. That's not necessarily services that are on the street, that's planning, that's customer services, and all the relief effort that's been taking place across the borough. The local area partnerships have been involved in that, councillors and community groups all pulling together in this time. And I think, thanks go to all of them. And obviously, while we're in this crisis, the work continues, and we will try to keep council services going. We will hopefully get funding from the government to allow us to do that, and we'll be helping our community through this as we move forward. Do we all agree with the recommendation?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Excellent.
Agreed.
Moving then to the front of the agenda again, our second item is the Brampton Museum redevelopment project. I'm going to hand over to Jill Waring, the portfolio holder for leisure, who's going to introduce this item. Jill.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the Brampton Museum redevelopment project. This report is to advise us of the successful funding award of £248,700 from the National Heritage Lottery Fund, and to give an update of the project so far. Cabinet are asked to accept the funding from the NHLF, which I wholeheartedly support, and it's also to seek approval for the Executive Director and myself to be given delegated authority to approve any match funding towards the project if it's needed. We are waiting for confirmation from the Lyme Communities Trust that an application for £100,000 has been successful, and we should hear about that at the end of May. This is an exciting project to extend the much loved museum and this beautiful building in a beautiful part of Newcastle, and it will enhance the work that we already do there. A lovely big extension will provide for temporary exhibitions throughout the year. We can have a new member of staff for a period of 3 years to deliver an activity plan. It'll widen the range of visitors to the museum, allow it to become more efficiently self-funding. We can extend the archiving area, and we can create a research area. And it's hoping to increase the number of volunteers that we train that help catalogue and digitise new collections, and it will improve our current collections. So I'm really happy to endorse this report, and I look forward to an even better museum in Newcastle later in the year. I think it's really good news for Newcastle. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Completely endorse what you've said there. I think this is a great scheme to bring forward. It's been a long time in the working to get to this stage, and I think that's why we're pressing ahead with it. This will be a key recovery project when we do come out of the coronavirus pandemic even. And this will be really an asset to the borough, building on what is already an asset for the borough, which is our museum and art gallery. And I commend the report and open it up to councillors to speak. And Stephen Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, absolutely endorse this as well. I think it's a really useful. It's also an example of the council is continuing its role. It's continuing its life. It's once we come out of this emergency, then the council will carry on, policy will carry on, and we're still carrying on with these projects. But I really like on this, because I've got a bit of a thing about value for money, and I do like the bit about a building contractor has been procured through the SCAPE framework, and they have priced the capital works at 768,000. Assumed start date, blah blah. This is more than our quantity surveyor's estimate of 600. The contractor's estimate is therefore currently being evaluated by the quantity surveyor. We're not taking it as a gimmick. You know, why are you charging this much money? That's the sort of thing I like to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
No, I think it's excellent for both for Newcastle and for the income generation of the area. Really, it's just at the moment we've got the COVID virus going on, as we know. but it would be good if we could actually get on with things. Why this is happening to us. That's excellent. I can, you know, I'm full of admiration for this and wholeheartedly support it, Leader. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So recommendation before us, which has been moved by Jill Waring. Do we all agree?
Agree.
Okay, great. Just put your hand down, Steve. You've still got your blue hand on your screen there. If we want to move then to the next item, which is Kidsgrove Sports Centre refurbishment. Again, this is another item to bring forward for keep the council moving, keep us on our priorities and our projects, and also prepare for recovery. And this is the next stage of moving the project to a refurbished Kidsgrove Sports Centre forward. We've done a lot of work really since the last Cabinet report. The community group themselves who we're working with have done a lot of work on updating their business case. We've obviously had the SCAPE framework in place with our officer Simon Mack working with Wilmot Dixon to bring forward a series of costs, and the project cost is now 5.6 million. We have in our capital programme agreed in the budget in February 3.151 million. So there we have to obviously then make up that gap. The report details on how we would do that. But before we get on to that, I think we should say that this is, thanks to the finance officer, a report which deals with the finances as they will come to play over this. And I think one of the first things is to demonstrate that this is value for money compared with building a brand new centre, for example. And it says under 8.1 of the report on page 29, is that is clearly the case. 5.6 million for the refurb, where the cost within the region of 11.6 million for a completely new centre. So we're demonstrating the value for money there on that. I also think that it's really interesting to see that in the last few days, Wilmot Dixon have started to put a porta cabin on the site to do some more invasive work into the site so that we can actually get to that final figure of 5.6 at the moment, nail it down to a figure that we can then use to get on with this project and take a decision to full council. And this report really gets us on the way to that. It moves us forward in a massive way, really, that takes this project to the point of where we will be starting work on the site. I think that's what the people of Kidsgrove would like to see. They've been without their sports facility and their swimming pool in Kidsgrove for long enough, and the community wish to see that. So it's right that we press on with this project during this period. The total capital cost of the project are around 5.6 at the moment, as I've said, and the detail of that is under 8.2 on the report, which again will be firmed up as we go further with the Wilmot Dixon's work that's taking place at the moment. But we've been asked today to authorise the pre-contract work package for full design and costs for the refurbishment of the sports centre. That's a sum of 479,500, excuse me. And that then the commercial director, obviously in consultation with myself, to agree any reasonable variation to the pre-contract package price required as a result of detailed and obtrusive survey work that's been undertaken at the moment. We note the cost of the project being 5.6 million, for which I said earlier 3.151 is in the capital programme at the moment, and then there'll be necessary estimate of up to 2.5 Veriment to cover the final all-exclusive capital costs of the project as they come forward. So I'm really in favour of moving this forward, even at this time. And I think we discussed in the previous report about the situation with the pandemic at the moment. Finances are an issue for the council, but I feel this is something we must have a laser light on moving forward in a direction to make this project happen, because we promised it, the community want it. It has cross-party political support, and we'll do everything we can during this period to ensure we do move forward so we can have that refurbished sports centre in Kidsgrove. I'm now going to open it up to Cabinet members to comment. Steve, do you want to come in first?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, no, I support everything you say. If I just reiterate what I said about the Brampton, really, this is a sign of business as usual for this council, and part of the recovery stage is things like this, and the fact that the porta cabin is on site shows that we're serious about it. But I think years ago, you know, only the best people at Kidsgrove, and this shows I wasn't joking. So I totally endorse what you said. Thank you.
Okay, Jill, as a Kidsgrove member.
Yes, thank you, Simon. Yeah, I agree with the recommendations in this report. I think it's quite clear from the council's point of view that refurbishment option is significantly cheaper. I would like to mention, though, had a similar exercise been done 3 years ago when the sports centre could have been reopened now. We could have saved a fortune in the refurbishment costs because there wouldn't have been things like the vandalism that's gone on. I'm really looking forward to the project going ahead and hope it can happen without any delays. I think because the facility is urgently needed in Kidsgrove and the people of Kidsgrove are waiting for it. So I hope it goes ahead as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, Paul.
Thanks, Leader. Yes, I'll keep this short. I agree with everything that's been said. I'm really pleased that this is being firmed up now, and the procurement of this contract will obviously allow the council to fulfil its commitment to provide sports facilities in Kidsgrove that are modern, attractive and of high quality to meet the expectations of the public alike. I think this underlines how serious we are in terms of how we want to take this project forward, and I welcome it wholeheartedly, Leader. Thank you.
Okay, Trevor.
What is lovely to see is that this is reinforcing the sort of progressive council that we are, pushing forward like this. Can I just go back to the museum? I wanted just one comment on that. If old Muppy Fox was up in the sky looking down, she'd be so thrilled. I think you'd agree with that. Okay, thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Trevor. Yes, obviously former councillor for the Maybank area, which includes the museum. And yes, it's an asset which, you know, I was as a local councillor there for many years. It is a jewel in the crown in the Brampton Park, which is a jewel in the crown park in the area. And hopefully a refurbished Kidsgrove Sports Centre will be the jewel in the crown of Kidsgrove. Also detailed in the reports, which I must mention, is the details of the subsidy that will be required by the group as it gets up and running, because no business can suddenly start up and hit the ground with a profit. It will need to be subsidised, the group, and there is details of that in the report under 8. Also, the major risks involved in this, as detailed under 9.1, there's risks in everything we do, and at this time, more than any other time, really, this is an issue, and we've got to ensure that you know, that the community group are supported, that their business case is robust, and then obviously that we can find the capital money within the budget to make that sustainable for the council over the years, and that's what our officers and myself and other cabinet members will be doing over the next couple of months, working with the community group to move this forward. And it's great to see, you know, sort of signs of movement on the site. I think that's what the people of Kidsgrove are looking for. So recommendations before us, as I read out before, I won't read them out again, but as I say, a major push forward for this project. Do we all agree?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the forward plan that has been printed for us there. Obviously, we've taken a look at this again in the light of the way meetings are going to be taking place over the next few months, and in the light of the bigger priorities we have in many areas. But there is still an active forward plan here that's going to take us forward. For the benefit of cabinet members, I'll go through it page by page. If you've got any comments, stick your hand up or put your light on or whatever you want to do. Page 35, we have a series of items there. Page 36. It will take us through to September, page 37, through September to the end of September, Cabinet. So a number of items there which we will be concentrated on, keep the council, the business going during this period, which is what the people and residents will want, and we'll do that carrying on forward. Do we all agree the forward plan?
Agree.
Thank you. Right, item 8, I have a question. Not very often we do get questions coming to Cabinet, but I have one today from Councillor Bert Proctor, leader of the independent group, and I will read this out and then I'll hand over to Paul, who's going to do an initial response to it. It refers to the changes to Staffordshire first responders. West Midlands Ambulance Service have banned first responder vehicles in Staffordshire from using blue lights when attending emergency calls. Additionally, preventing them from carrying vital drugs previously administered by them. The first responders in the rural area often arrive before paramedics, and their early intervention can be difference between life and death. Please can the Leader of the Council write and urge the West Midlands Ambulance Service to reverse this decision to ensure that the residents within the rural communities can once again be served by an efficient and effective first responder service to supplement the ambulance service. In addition, please can the Council write to the local MP for Newcastle to ask him to make every effort to reverse this decision. This was going to be submitted as a motion to the April Council, which of course was cancelled because of the pandemic. Councillor Proctor has reworded it into a question which asking Cabinet to have a look at and possibly support. But I'm going to bring Paul in now, who has obviously as a rural member has a lot of experience and issues with this. So Paul.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, and thank you for Councillor Proctor for submitting this question. As you all know, I represent the rural area, not just in Loggerheads, but also the Newcastle Rural Division at the County Council hat. When I first discovered that the ambulance service were going to make the changes in April the 1st of this year, I was really shocked. Firstly, I was shocked at the way it was done. It went out in a form of a newsletter to community first responders, which I will refer to as CFRs from now on. This was quite disparaging, really, that it hadn't been a publicly announced event. It was done rather subversely, in my opinion. This is not just a local thing. This is a national problem at the moment. I have been talking quite a bit with other areas such as Cannock, Biddulph, the Moorlands. All have reported, particularly the rural area, as most at risk. A recent Freedom of Information request highlighted that Staffordshire, the amount of responses that the CFRs had to attend was 2,126. 2,112 of those, the community first responders were first on scene, which is amazing, really. But the figure that really attracts me most to the CFRs is the waiting time before they get back up. And this is the critical time when, you know, life-changing outcomes can be made to improve patient survival rates and recuperation rates. That 17 minutes is a heck of a long time to make decisions and for backup to come. One of the things that has been removed is the ability to use blue lights to attend scene. That I don't agree with. I think this needs more scrutiny. I think this council needs to not only just work with West Midlands Ambulance, but I think I agree with the questioner that came in that we do need to write to MPs. Now, I know that Jonathan Gullis and Theo Clark, MPs for Parliament, have already written to West Midlands Ambulance, and Jonathan Gullis had a response on the 13th of April. I have had sight of this report. Obviously, I can't share that because of the confidentiality of the nature, but the response is very disparaging and very dismissive. And I'm quite shocked at the language that's used towards a member of Parliament, quite frankly, and the way that this is being done is a complete shock, really. And it shows there's a big gap between reality in terms of where West Midlands Ambulance is going from. The figures nationally, regionally, they seem to flood resource into urban areas, which has an effect of flattening out the overall statistics of the region, which isn't particularly helpful. But that Freedom of Information request, those figures there highlight the actual facts of how much work has been done by the community first responders. So to conclude with, I agree that the council should write and urge West Midlands Ambulance Service to reverse decision. I think they should also write to the other MPs that represent the area as well. So not just Aaron Bell, but Jonathan, and also Karen Bradley from the Moorlands, and any other local rural MP that's been connected with this, because they will be having the same issues, I'm sure, in their area. there's two people I think we should also write to, is Nick Henry, and also importantly Anthony Marsh, the chair of the Association of Ambulance Chief Executives. So to add that to the list. So I recommend that we do that, Chair, and I urge the other councillors to support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that. Open it up to anybody else that wants to say anything. Steve?
Nothing to add. I entirely agree with Councillor Northcott. I don't quite understand the rationale for doing it in the first place. I don't really understand the logic. There must be some sort of logic, or they presumably they wouldn't have done it, but I don't follow it. So I absolutely support what you say, Paul. Thank you.
Any other speakers on that? No? Okay, so we will write, as Councillor Proctor has asked, to the West Midlands Ambulance Service and to our local MP, but also we'll add letters to the people that Paul has outlined there as well, on behalf of Cabinet, to ask obviously the West Midlands Ambulance Service to reconsider the stance they've taken by banning the first responder vehicles from the blue lights and also from carrying the vital drugs. So we'll do that with pleasure and add our weight to a campaign that I've also seen is happening on social media as well at the moment. So we will definitely add our voices to that, and I'll get those letters sent off as soon as is possible. And thank you to Councillor Proctor for raising that with us. Moving back to the agenda, urgent business. I don't have any urgent business. There's no need to disclose the public, which would be cutting people off on this mechanism here, actually pulling the plug on them, which I've no need to do. And then we've obviously had the question, which referred to at the end there. People can ask questions. We've had the one from Councillor Proctor. So that concludes the Cabinet meeting for today. Thank you for attending in a strange way. It's been the first time we've done this, and won't be the last, and we'll get better as we go on. But thank you to Cabinet members. Thank you to our officers who are sitting there and waiting to be called in if necessary. And also thank you to those members of the press and member of the press, Kerry, and also Councillor Williams, Councillor Robinson, Sarah Wilkes, our finance officer, Jeff Durham, and Sylvia Burgess. I'm doing like a roll call here, and I don't think I forgot anybody. And of course, David Alkington, who's arranged this meeting in the background. I'm now going to bring the meeting to a close, and have a good afternoon, everybody.